Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Jackie Bailey made slight reference to the fact that David Cameron haven't been very supportive of offshore wind. He's absolutely 100% supportive. Mind you, he is the SNP councillor in Aberdeen, David Cameron, perhaps not the one that he had in her mind. Liam Kerr, his memory seems to be slightly shorter than mine. It was Remembrance Day, and when we were both sitting round the table listening to Shell UK, I think Lewis MacDonald was also there, so he might nod when I say that Shell did indicate some considerable disappointment at the inadequate support they were getting from the UK government for many of the initiatives they wished to pursue. And finally, let me also say to Liam Kerr, that Aberdeenshire perhaps has a higher concentration of onshore wind farms, primarily because the Conservative-led council for many years there had a looser planning authority with not the same restrictions as the rest of Scotland in distance between wind turbines and communities, something that was there, and I urged them to harmonise with others. So Liam Kerr, new to us, perhaps not so familiar with some of the history as others might be. Now, there are some interesting things said on this whole subject from time to time. There was a 2010 general election candidate who stood against Austin Mitchell and nearly beat him, got within 714 votes, called Victoria Ailing, standing for the Conservative Party. In 2015, she showed perhaps that startling insight that those on the right of politics show when she posed the question, what happens when renewable energy runs out? This was something which was drawn to her attention as perhaps not being the most sensible thing to have said. There was a good deal of desperate backpedalling. She backpedalled even further. She stood in 2015 again in the same constituency in Grimsby for UKIP. She will be making a third attempt to get to the UK Parliament on Thursday when she is standing in the Sleaford and North Hykeham by-election, once again for UKIP, appropriately enough on the ballot paper immediately following the monster raving Looney Party and immediately before Bus Pass Elvis, whose candidate appears to be a gentleman called David Bishop. So there is a lot of nonsense talked about in this general subject. Some of it is merely amusing, but some of it is really serious indeed. Some unexpected sources point us to the seriousness of the whole issue of climate change and why renewable energy has such an important part in this. And I like to quote no less a person than John Brennan, who's the director of the CIA, who on the 16th of November 2015 said, "Climate change is a deeper source of instability." He identified climate change as one of the key challenges that was creating an unstable world that his agency would have to engage with. It wasn't the only thing he identified, but in a handful of things he identified climate change. And that's why we should take this debate on the subject of renewables and on the broader subject of climate change extremely seriously indeed. We've made progress in Scotland, that's for sure. Beating our climate change targets 6 years ahead of the date that we set in 2009 is absolutely terrific. But we are but 1/700th of the world's emissions, so we can set an example, but we aren't the source of the entire problem. The UK government is much bigger in its contribution to climate problems. So it is bitterly disappointing to see that they are failing to understand the best economic way of tackling the issues that are before us. Contracting a price twice the market rate for nuclear power from Hinkley Point is not only a foolish one in terms of relying on a technology which is unproven and by the early attempts to implement that technology that Hinkley Point C would depend on, looking to not be successful, but it's economically benighted and unhelpful. The money could much more usefully and to proven technologies be installed in renewable energy. The low-carbon contracts company that I referred to earlier, which is part of the quite complex infrastructure surrounding contracts for difference. There are 6 significant parties to these contracts, which makes things far from easy. Certainly didn't, in their contracts for difference booklet for 2016-2017, give us any prior insight into this volte-face by the UK government. I hope that the UK government will listen to this debate, but also, more to the point, it will think not just of the investments that are being made in renewable energy and the value that's derived from there, but as Lewis MacDonald and others have made reference to, the key opportunity to re-exploit the huge skills that have been built up in Scotland, in the north of England, in East Anglia, throughout the UK, in offshore gas and offshore oil. Both industries that have been around for decades now, which we can make much of in the future. Presiding Officer.